You're standing at the edge of something that could change your entire life. And the dangerous part is, you don't even realize it. Right now, in this exact moment, you are closer than you have ever been. Closer to the breakthrough, closer to the respect, closer to becoming the man you said you would be. But here's the truth no one warns you about. This is also the moment most people quit. Not because they're weak, but because they're tired, frustrated, and blinded by how far they think they still have to go. There's a silent war happening inside you. One voice is reminding you of the effort, the pain, the sacrifices no one sees. The other is whispering doubt, telling you it's not working, that maybe this isn't for you, that maybe you've miscalculated your own potential. And when a man starts believing that voice, he doesn't just stop trying, he starts justifying why stopping is the right decision. From a man's perspective, quitting feels logical in that moment. It feels like protecting your energy, your pride, your time. But from the outside, especially from those watching you, women, family, the world, it doesn't look like strategy, it looks like surrender right before the finish line. And that gap between what you feel and what they see, that's where your identity is being decided. Because the truth is, the moment you feel like quitting is not a sign you're failing, it's a signal you're close. Pain intensifies near the threshold. Doubt gets louder when you're about to prove it wrong. And pressure builds right before something breaks through. The question is not whether you're capable. The question is whether you can recognize that this moment, this exact moment, is the test that separates men who almost made it from men who refuse to stop. The moment you feel the urge to quit is often the exact moment progress is finally taking hold beneath the surface. It doesn't feel like success. In fact, it feels like resistance, like nothing is moving, like all your effort is being absorbed without reward. But that's how real change works. It happens quietly before it becomes visible. A man in this phase starts questioning everything, not because he's incapable, but because the results haven't caught up to the effort yet. And his mind, wired to seek certainty, begins to interpret that delay as failure. The pressure a man feels in this moment is not just internal, it's amplified by perception. From his perspective, he's exhausted, running on discipline with no validation. From a woman's perspective, or from those watching him, this is the phase where his character is being measured, not by what he says, but by whether he continues when it no longer feels rewarding. Because consistency in discomfort signals something deeper than ambition. It signals stability, resilience, and trustworthiness. The conflict intensifies because quitting can be rationalized so easily. It can be framed as being realistic or changing direction, when in truth, it's often an emotional response to delayed gratification. And the danger isn't just losing progress, it's reinforcing a pattern where discomfort becomes the cue to stop rather than the signal to push forward. Your mind is designed to protect you, not to push you beyond your limits, which is why it constantly searches for comfort, even when comfort is the exact thing holding you back. It whispers in subtle logic, rest now, delay it, avoid the discomfort, and it makes those thoughts feel reasonable, even responsible. But a man driven by purpose cannot afford to confuse ease with progress, because everything meaningful in his life will sit on the other side of resistance. The tension he feels is not a mistake. It is the signal that he is stepping outside the boundaries of who he used to be. A man in pursuit of purpose experiences an internal split that few people understand. From his own perspective, pain feels like a warning sign, something to escape. But from the perspective of those watching him, especially women who observe consistency more than intention, that same pain is a sign of evolution. It reveals whether he is someone who negotiates with discomfort, or someone who learns to carry it without breaking. Purpose does not reward the avoidance of struggle. It rewards the willingness to stay in it long enough for transformation to take shape. The conflict deepens when comfort starts disguising itself as intelligence. The mind tells him he is being strategic by stepping back, but in reality, he is stepping away from the very pressure that would have refined him. And in that quiet negotiation between comfort and calling, identity is formed not by what he desires, but by what he is willing to endure when no one is watching. Most men don't fail because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity. They fail because they leave the process before it has time to reveal its results. They enter with energy, with vision, with the belief that effort should quickly translate into reward. But reality rarely works that way. The early stage is always silent, almost deceptive, because nothing visible changes even when everything internally is being rebuilt. And in that silence, doubt grows louder than discipline. A man's psychology in this phase is deeply tied to validation. When progress is invisible, he begins to question whether he is capable at all, not realizing that every meaningful achievement requires a stretch of time where effort feels disconnected from outcome. From his own perspective, stopping feels like relief, like stepping out of uncertainty. But from the perspective of those observing him, especially women who often measure consistency over time rather than intensity in bursts, this exit is not seen as a smart decision. But as the moment potential collapses under pressure, the real pattern is not failure under pressure, but departure before pressure transforms into breakthrough. Most men never reach the phase where effort compounds, where identity strengthens, where results finally align with discipline. Instead, they exit right before the invisible work becomes visible success, mistaking delay for denial and discomfort for disqualification. Doubt doesn't appear at the beginning of the journey. It intensifies right when a man is closest to something meaningful. At the start, everything feels clear and fueled by motivation. But as the path continues and the outcome is still not visible, the mind begins to question what once felt certain. This is not a sign of weakness. It is the natural response of a brain trying to protect him from continued uncertainty. But purpose does not grow in clarity. It grows in resistance. A man in this stage begins to misinterpret proximity as distance. The closer he gets to a breakthrough, more subtle and psychological the resistance becomes. From his own perspective, the doubt feels like truth forming late, like realization that maybe he was wrong. But from an external perspective, especially from women who often read consistency and emotional endurance more than verbal confidence, this is the phase where strength is being proven in silence. Not through achievement, but through persistence when belief is under attack. The dangerous part is that doubt becomes persuasive right before progress becomes visible. It doesn't shout at the beginning. It waits, it builds, and then it intensifies when quitting would cost the most. And in that moment, the difference between collapsing and continuing is not knowledge or skill, but the ability to recognize that doubt often peaks at the edge of transformation, not at the edge of failure. What you call tired is often not exhaustion in the traditional sense, but the internal resistance that appears when a man is being reshaped by discipline, pressure, and repetition. It doesn't feel inspiring in the moment. It feels heavy, slow, and mentally draining. But that heaviness is not the absence of progress. It is proof that something within him is being rebuilt at a deeper level than motivation can reach. The body slows down, yet the identity is being restructured in silence. A man experiencing this stage begins to misread transformation as decline. From his own perspective, he feels less energetic, less sharp, and less certain, and he assumes something is wrong. But what is actually happening is adaptation. His mind is learning to operate without emotional reward, and his character is being trained to function under pressure without external validation. From a woman's perspective, especially one observing consistency over time, this phase does not look like weakness. It looks like endurance without applause, the kind of scalability that cannot be faked in short bursts. The deeper conflict is that society teaches men to interpret fatigue as a stopping point, when in reality, it is often the threshold of a new capacity forming. Every repetition, every uncomfortable decision, every moment of continuing without motivation accumulates into a quieter, stronger version of him. And in that space where he feels most drained, he is often closest to becoming someone he has never been before. Someone built not on intensity, but on persistence, that does not rely on feeling strong to remain strong. If you walk away now, it is not just the end of an effort. It becomes a silent agreement with every fear that ever tried to stop you. Fear does not need to defeat you loudly. It only needs you to leave quietly at the right moment. And in that moment of departure, your mind does something powerful and dangerous. It rewrites the story. It tells you that leaving was wisdom, that stopping was strategy, that you were being practical. But beneath that logic is something deeper, the reinforcement of doubt as truth. A man in this position is not simply tired of the process. He is tired of the emotional weight of uncertainty. From his own perspective, walking away feels like regaining control, like escaping pressure that no longer feels justified. But from the outside, especially from a woman's perspective, where consistency, emotional endurance, and follow-through often define respect more than intention ever could, this moment is not neutral. It becomes a signal whether he is someone who completes what he starts or someone who negotiates with discomfort until it wins. The real consequence is not the loss of progress, but the confirmation of identity. Every fear he had about not being strong enough, not being disciplined enough, not being capable enough, gets quietly validated when he exits at the hardest point. Bikau. See, fear does not need to prove itself right through failure. It only needs him to stop before the outcome arrives. And once that pattern is established, the mind learns a dangerous lesson, that discomfort is a reason to retreat, not a sign that he is standing at the edge of something meaningful. The deeper truth is that the moment of quitting is never just about the task itself. It is about what he decides to believe about himself in that moment.